time for another wrestling podcast.
All right. Are you fucking kidding me?
Guys, I got blocked again on Twitter.
I'm your mark of marks.
That's the most reliable source on the interwebs.
The social assassin at your disposal, bitches.
All right, welcome back. Another wrestling podcast, episode 231. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Today on our show, we have on CazXL, FKA, Big Cass, joining us. He sits down with JB later on. Guys, I know you heard the news this week. Right after the show, right after the Northeast Wrestling Show on Friday, CazXL had a little bit of a downfall at the Saturday show. And the Saturday show, I believe he was at WrestlePro in Jersey.
WrestlePro. That's the same company who had that shit to say about Sabu, right?
Yeah, it was Pro Wrestling Syndicate. And if you guys don't know the story, so if you go back to and listen to Sabu on a show.
That's a great episode.
I heard, so long story short, these guys down there, I don't know them. Something happened with Sabu, so they started talking shit about him in the ring. And I heard what they were saying about him, and I was like, well, I just talked to Sabu the other day. Let me get him on the phone and see what he had to say, because Kuter, there's always two sides to every story.
Right.
One of our highest rated episodes, I might add, Sabu, we just had him on to tell his side of the story, and that's it. So I understand the politics down there, I guess you could say, down in Jersey with some of their shows, but I'll tell you what, I've seen Kaz a handful of times already at Northeast Wrestling shows. The guy is nothing but a gentleman, a really nice guy every time I've met him. From what I saw with other wrestlers, he worked well with everybody he's been in the ring with up here.
And he's gotten himself in some really good shape, too, I might add. He looks fantastic. He looks amazing.
He's awesome. I mean, if everybody had a microscope on their lives out there, you would know that you're not perfect. We have
living proof of that.
We have our bad days, and we have our good days. But unfortunately, when you're a celebrity and you have a big name like that, you're out there, you have a bigger spotlight on you. So anything.
That blue check mark on Twitter, man. That shit once they see that, bro, your life is all over the place. I'm glad I don't have one. Fuck you, Credo. I know you do.
I am verified. I need a shirt like that. I'm verified. But no, yes. So stay tuned with that. He talks with JB, and like I said, this happened about 2 days before the weekend show at Northeast Wrestling at How You Doin, which we spoke to a lot of guys out there. We spoke to Matt Taven, a lot of other wrestlers, which you'll be able to hear on our YouTube, anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. All the links are up there. We'll be posting some interviews over the next few days, and you can actually see the one of Enzo and Cass right now on there from the other day. It was a great interview, and I love it. I love CazXL. I love CazXL and Enzo Amore, so we'll hear from them in a little bit. But Kuter, man, this is what we're doing every day. I'm talking with Jonathan a little bit later from our ride out over to Waterbury, Connecticut, but I'm here with you today. Minority Mikes and Parts Unknowns this week. I think someone's getting married or something's happening. Either way, Mike's out of the booth tonight, so it's just a two-man booth tonight, Kuter.
That's fantastic. My ears aren't ringing. I might actually get a word in. I'm just kidding.
Oh, there you go. Those guys, I'll stay tuned for all that happening on later on. But, Kuter, let's get right into it, man. This was a great week for wrestling, for WWE at least, from what we've been watching.
We had Clash of Champions. It was a pretty decent pay-per-view, I'd say. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, man. There was nothing that you usually hear us complain. You hear a lot of marks complain about things, but it was balanced. It was well-balanced. A well-balanced meal of Clash of Champions. I mean, there's other things I would have loved to happen, but it ended phenomenally. Ended great.
Yes.
And, what more could you ask for than a great ending like that with The Fiend and Seth Rollins? And I didn't know they were going to push him that big right away, and I love it. I love what they're doing with him. But, yeah, man, overall, what would you say that stood out from the pay-per-view the most for you?
For me, Kofi and Orton stole the show. I didn't really see that coming. And I got to hand it to Kofi for somebody who I really didn't have high hopes for. I was a hater. I wasn't digging the storyline at first. The guy has been an amazing champion, and he's put on top-notch performances and has been a class act inside and outside of the ring, dude. I can't sing his praises anymore. There were some stinkers in there, but, the way they were put out throughout the card, you didn't really notice them as much, and a little bit of salt and pepper here and there, I was good to go. I even enjoyed Roman and Rowan. I thought that was pretty decent.
Yeah, man, and the return of Luke Harper. I mean, as much as we joked last week about this match, why is it even on the show? Because it wasn't even a championship match. And unfortunately, AJ Styles was delegated to the pre-show, and this could have been a pre-show. But
oh, thank God, though.
What turned it around, man, is Luke Harper, because what we've heard from once is that they're not using him, they're not going to use him. He wants to be used, and I guess it's just the dirt sheets talking out there on the interwebs, right? But I'm happy to see Luke Harper back, and he doesn't have a hammer with him, and I'm happy about that. I'm happy about the no hammers.
I know. We haven't seen him since WrestleMania weekend at the Worlds Collide show.
Yep.
We had that match with Donovan Dijakovic or whatever they're calling him, but that was an incredible match. I'm glad, and he looked great. He was in great shape. I want to see more Luke Harper, and you got to understand, this makes the brand split that's happening next week after this draft very interesting, because no more wild card rule, and we got a lot of teams now, Credo.
Yeah.
A lot of teams.
Yeah, man. It's definitely filling out for the best, I guess. But I'll tell you what. Speaking of a lot of teams, looks like we're getting a team repackaged to a certain extent. AOP. I don't know if they're going to still have their Shield outfits, but they were in some suits. Kind of reminded me of Scarface, if you will, a little bit. These guys coming up from South America or something like that.
One's Albanian. I think
but it's not. I know.
Yeah, it's weird.
So I mean, speaking with some subtitles, but they didn't need them. You could tell they didn't need them for all that. But I get the whole what they're doing with the gimmick. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see these guys come back, because we haven't seen them in a while. I mean, one was injured. I think didn't one have a visa issue or something to that effect, and then they were just they made their debut and then they went MIA. So I'm happy to see that they're actually going to be used again.
I mean, and they're big dudes. And what's interesting is whenever you see a big team like that go in and start to be a little dominant, lately there's been just injury bugs, especially when it comes to the tag teams. So when the opportunity for like a revival versus that has not happened on the main roster, to the best of my knowledge. There's just a lot of great teams. You have the OC, you have AOP, you got Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler in the mix now. You have Harper and Rowan. Fuck, man. The Revival, the New Day, the lists go on. The Hardys can make another, run back when Jeff's healthy. This is very intriguing, man.
Another thing that happened this week too that was kind of big was the King of the Ring Kuter, and I'm not even mad at the outcome. It was a great match.
I told you wouldn't be. I told you.
Corbin stepped up. Gable stepped up. This is a kind of match where it doesn't matter who wins or loses, because it was a hell of a match. I think
are you talking about my sleeper pick, Chad Gable, Credo?
The sleeper pick, Chad Gable.
Oh my God, this was incredible from top to bottom. I've been singing
Baby
Baron
Angle.
Corbin's praises for weeks, dude.
I know,
for
man.
weeks, and I've been a fan of his since NXT, and he just always had so much heat. I'm like, I don't get it. He's doing his job. He's getting the right heat. His moveset is incredible. And that spot they did at the end with the tilt-a-whirl end of days was amazing. I jumped out of my fucking chair.
Yeah, I was saying to myself, I'm like watching all of Corbin's moves, or his moveset, his finishers and stuff, and I'm like, he has a great moveset, like he has great finishers. All of his finishers are awesome, and when you put up a guy like Gable with him selling him like that, I mean, it's it makes him even look even better like that. So I'll tell you what, I'm not surprised they gave it to Corbin. Because I mean, look, he's been getting like the Roman Reigns push, if you will, to where he was like Superstar of the Year, then Royal Rumble winner, to where Corbin was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner. I hate saying that. And everything else. I think he's been, he was a GM and everything else. So he's had quite a resume to get this achievement as the King of the Ring. So I'm okay with it. I think King Corbin might work well. It depends on how they do it.
Anything's better than him coming to ring in that fucking vest.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad they've been ditching that. He's been coming down in a tank top. And, that vest had to fucking go. I'm like, with the sleeves rolled up. Get the fuck out of here.
We need a fashion episode. Do you remember when I came on one of our old shows a long time ago and I was just going off about...
Oh, yes.
You got to bring a fashion. I think just talking about fashion will be phenomenal for us. I think it'll be great.
You fucking were going through the list in order, just making fun of everybody's ring gear, what you would change. It was like... I swear to God, I thought you were fucking Breezango or some shit.
I'm telling you, I can nitpick. I can nitpick to the end of the world, and I'll be able to nitpick everybody on how they should look or what they should be wearing.
You want to hear some nitpicking?
Yeah.
I got a quick nitpick for you.
All right.
From here on out, when Charlotte does a run-in, okay, because she now does fucking heels.
Oh, man. I know it looks good on TV, but come on. Let's be a little realistic, right?
I'm afraid for her. Sometimes she runs down that ramp in them heels. I'm like, that bitch is going to break her fucking ankle.
Ugh.
Safety first, goddammit.
Yep, safety first. Yeah, you know, a lot of interesting things. I mean, we had the return of Rusev on Raw, with kind of being tied in with a weird story. I don't know if that's going to stick for any more than 2 days, but
or Mike Kanellis. Dude, can we talk about this real quick?
Sure.
You're going to have your wife tell you that Ricochet is really the father of your kid. He goes down there and still loses, only to have her say, "No, Rusev knocked me up." Why are we turning Mike Kanellis into a cuck? I don't understand.
I know. Oh man, I feel like I don't know what the end game is with it yet. And you know what? I'm kind of happy with it because Mike Kanellis wasn't being used at all. Like he debuted, was used twice on main TV, and then he had a little fallout with drugs.
I don't know, bro. I don't know if I would rather be used or be made to look like a cuck.
I know.
You know, I'm just saying. I mean,
that paycheck.
A few weeks ago when this started, I'm like, God damn, you know what? Maria was being a little bit edgier, and I was like, I'm kind of enjoying this. I'm going to see where this goes. She's bashing him on 205 Live because he gets good matches on 205 Live. He's somewhat competitive over there. But when you're jobbing the Ricochet and Rusev in the same night, whose cornflakes did you shit in, bro? Now, not only are you jobbing, but you're being made to look like a cuck. I can't.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious where the end game for this is because I mean he's another great talented wrestler. He's great on the mic. He's actually a great wrestler if they actually let him wrestle to his full potential. So I'm hopeful, especially the way this Raw turned it around. I am hopeful because that ending, man, another ending from Clash of Champions to ending on Raw with The Fiend. I'll tell you what, man, there is nothing I hate about The Fiend. I love it, and it's Mankind meets whatever 2.0, and it's just working. Whatever they're doing right now is working. That is pro wrestling, just that kind of character. That's stuff you just don't see. So I'm very happy with that. What an incredible week, though. I mean, of all these things happening, and Kuter, the biggest thing that happened this week and why it was so good is because Vince McMahon wasn't even in charge of this week's Raw, from what I understand.
So wait a minute, was he at SmackDown?
Kevin Dunn wasn't even in town. Vince McMahon wasn't in town. Triple H wasn't even at the show because he's getting ready for NXT's live show this week. The man in charge this week, Kuter, at Raw was Paul Heyman. That was a Paul Heyman show, brother. That was, I mean. It's like watching it, I knew something was different, but now when I found out that Vince or Kevin or whomever else weren't there, I got it. It was great. I don't know what happens backstage, but I feel like, Paul Heyman, he knows how to inner work all these different angles, all these different characters, and just make wrestling great again. I don't know. It definitely works.
Is he gonna be doing double duty now?
Well,
I mean, I know he's executive producer of Raw, but I mean, the way we saw it, Brock Lesnar's looks like he's going to be on SmackDown. Did Fox want Brock Lesnar because he's going to be challenging Kofi Kingston?
I know, man, and I think
very interesting.
I feel like this was the writing on the wall for a long time, and I think if this is the end of Kofi's run, it was a great run for a first time. I don't see that why he wouldn't be able to be a champ again, but. It was like that Jinder Mahal experiment where I was like, Jinder got it, but I'm okay with Kofi as champion, and I think from WrestleMania till like October is a good run for a first-time champ. So
we talked about this last week, even though it didn't make the cutting room floor. I know.
Yeah.
But I was one of those haters, dude. I was like, dude, I'm Kofi out of nowhere because Mustafa Ali got injured, so they put it, Kofi in that storyline. It was a nice fit, interchanging puzzle pieces, so to speak. But I didn't have high hopes for Kofi, and I got to tell you, him and Randy stole the fucking show. I've been singing this guy's praises ever since. He's put on incredible matches. He's been nothing but fucking awesome on the mic. He's turned me. He proved me wrong. I was wrong, and I can admit when I'm wrong. It's wow. Yeah.
Kuter admitting to when he's wrong. I love it.
Yo, when do I? This is the other.
I love it.
When do I not admit I'm wrong? How many times have I turned?
Kuter's, well, kind of like a Big Show heel turn, maybe. I don't know.
No. I'm when I say turn, like people have turned me. Like okay, classic example. I used to shit on Vic Joseph when he first came in.
Yep.
Now he's probably my favorite play-by-play announcer that they have.
Yeah, man. It's sometimes you just need to let it cook a little bit and see where the end game is going to happen. So, I mean, yeah. Overall, it was great. I do want to ask you about this tidbit because I know Triple H did a phone call recently and he mentioned this to where now with NXT Live, we have SmackDown going to Fox. I think we're going to see the end of 205 Live as a brand. But he's saying the Cruiserweight Championship, I think, is going to be dissolved into the NXT brand. So I think they're still going to have Cruiserweights, but they're going to be a part of NXT. What do you think about that one? Do you think that's a good fit for it?
I think that's a fantastic idea. Because quite honestly, I always thought that 205 Live should be a tape show at Full Sail. I thought it was a great idea because those are fans who would appreciate that brand more because 205 Live nobody was staying for, in a lot of markets where they would have to turn the crowd lights down and put everybody camera side so it looked like the arena was still full, but it was dead ass quiet. Now there's some talent there that I would love to see. Like, listen, Drew Gulak as Cruiserweight champ I think is great. I think him against a Pete Dunne would be an incredible match.
Yeah.
That's something that I've wanted to see for 2 years now.
Yeah. I think it's a great fit. I think doing that is because if you think about it now, because I talked to Kofi last week, I talked to Adam Cole this week, talking about NXT because now we talked about it too, to where it's essentially the third brand now. I mean, it's not the developmental, especially when you're putting it on the USA Network, which Raw is on. It's the third brand. Let's give it that. And with the Cruiserweight Championship, now with the North American Championship, the NXT Championship, they have like their own set of titles now. You know what I mean? Like they have their own brand of titles, which some are historic and some are for the show. But that's what I think is great because now between that, SmackDown and whatnot, everybody has their fill of championships and everything to go around. And if it doesn't work out on NXT, which I think it's going to work out, but the Cruiserweight Championship, what's to say, hey, the Cruiserweight Championship down the line isn't a part of Raw, and then what if the U.S. Championship doesn't become a part of NXT? Or the IC champion, you know what I mean? To where those lower class belts, we could move around to, I'll tell you, that North American Championship would be a nice break on being on Raw or SmackDown, or, if they do eventually move down the line, especially with these drafts coming up too, which is another thing that's happening. So I'm hopeful for what's happening, especially everything going on with NXT Live this week and all that. So, at the end,
who do you think on the NXT roster is really going to benefit from being on USA?
Hard to say, but I'll tell you, I'm excited to see as far as benefits. What do you mean? Just being put in front of more faces? You think, or just more faces? Bro, I'm a big. You
guys love you some Matt Riddle. He still hasn't done anything to really listen. People, I did not see him in Evolve. I did not really see him on the Indies, so I can't judge him. I can only judge Matt Riddle based on a few interviews that I saw of him, and some stuff that I've seen him in NXT. And I'll be honest with you. He's a talented guy. I'm not there yet.
Sure. All right. Fair enough.
I think Adam Cole, this is big for him.
He reminds me of like a young Shawn Michaels, a young, star. I mean, the guy can walk the walk. He can talk the talk. He's a great interview. I'll tell you that. The guy can answer anything. He's spot on with all his stuff. I think he's a well-rounded package for WWE. He's a great talent for them right now going forward. And I'll tell you what, Kuter, I might have had some doubts about him in the past, but Velveteen Dream, I think will turn some faces, especially if they're flipping through the channels and they come across NXT in one of his entrances.
Yeah.
They'll be like, wait, what is this? Especially,
especially in front of a crowd that appreciates him.
Yeah.
Because if it was in front of a random crowd in fucking, Des Moines, Iowa, you're not gonna get that same reaction.
Yeah.
You know who I'm worried for, and I love the guy to death. I do. I think he's a talent in the ring. Roddy Strong worries me.
Yeah. Even being a part of
listen, even everybody's got their entrance, and he does that thing where he gets on his knees and he waits for that spot in the music. He's there waiting forever. His timing with his entrance isn't all that great, because he's just like, you could be doing something else before you go to your knees, and you don't want to be on your knees for fucking 30 seconds waiting for the music. Yep. Like, sometimes I'm like, yo, dude, get up and like go flip somebody off, or go talk some shit, or like just stand on a turnbuckle or something. And then when the point is like, that song, you hear it every fucking night practically. You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
And he's not the greatest like promo.
And that's why I think putting him with the Undisputed Era kind of helps him blend in a little bit too.
Yeah, but in the ring, there's not too many guys who I think are fucking as good as he is. Like him, and I want to see a great program between him and Johnny Gargano. I think those matches would be ridiculous.
No, for sure. He reminds me of a young Dean Malenko, if you will. He kind of has the same attributes and same body and whatnot. Definitely reminds me of like a young Dean. But either way, Kuter, a lot happening this week. I do want to tell you, so as we went to Waterbury on Friday, spoke with a lot of the Northeast Wrestling talent, and like I said, once again, on otherwrestlingpodcast.com, you'll be able to find those videos and links shortly. But we did have a chance to speak with Enzo and Cass real quick about what they were doing there this week.
I'm shook right now. I don't know what to do.
Ain't no such things as halfway crooks, people. This guy never stole nothing from nobody. Look at him. He's a sweet boy.
I appreciate that.
Great shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We are here with...
Oh, that is good. This guy's a big Beatles fan. We got to get that out of the way. When we were in London, they used to sing the Big Cass. They used to sing him, Hey Jude.
When instead of Hey Jude, they'd say Big Cass.
Big Cass.
I'm checking that off the bucket list.
How you doing?
But we're here, Northeast Wrestling. This is
the best promotion in the Northeast.
This isn't your first rodeo here in Northeast
This
Wrestling.
ain't my first rodeo, pal. You know what I'm saying?
This is even named after you all tonight.
I just found that while I'm walking through the door.
I see it on the screen.
Couldn't believe it.
How you doing?
How you doing? That's what they want to know.
Welcome back down.
How you doing? Not how you doing. How you doing?
So I've completely lost control here. I want to say it's such a pleasure to see you both here in Northeast Wrestling. How's your experience been for Northeast Wrestling so far?
The best. Mike Lombardi, I showed up today and I gave Mike Lombardi, the promoter, some of the best fresh mutts he's ever had in his life. I know that for a fact because it's some of the best fresh mutts I've ever had in my life. And when it comes to that stuff, I feel like me and Lombardi are...
10 pounds. 10 pounds of fresh mutts.
I brought 10 pounds. 10 pounds of cheese. Cheese. That's right. For all the boys. I didn't bring silverware, but I figured they could figure that out. Nice enough gesture on my end. Brought some Italian bread as well. You know what I mean? Say grace.
So we're live, and you all have some amazing matches tonight.
That's a lie. I
sure.
came here to watch the show tonight, all right?
All right.
I came here to meet the fans, say hello, and more importantly, you understand, if you've watched some of the stuff that me and Cass have recently done, Madison Square Garden and whatnot, we don't like to let the other guy in the ring without the other guy being there. You know what I mean? You never know who's going to show up to a show, try to be a hero, and I got to have, my security here. And make no mistake about it, he needs his security too.
So, Big Cass, you are taking on Wrecking Ball Legursky tonight.
My favorite.
How do you think this is going to go for you?
He's going to get his ass whooped, plain and simple. I could beat around the bush and, lie to you, but he's going to get his ass whooped. That's it.
Well, we know.
Now, listen, we get the credit where the credit's due. All right? I think he might got you You got him in the height department? No. He might got you on the scale. You might beat him in the height. Guy might beat you on a scale right now.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
I'm not looking past him by any means. Like he's a big dude.
You can't look past
He's a formidable opponent.
Can't look past the wrecking ball.
Yeah, he's a formidable opponent, but plain and simple, at the end of the night, he's going to get his ass whipped. That's it.
I think I got a better shot against him. You know,
You have a better shot.
Well, you got to look at the matchup. You got to look at the matchup. I'm speed, I'm quick, I'm agility. He's big, he's kind of slow. You're tall. You see the matchup. He's a wrecking ball. He takes out your knee. You got a feeble. I didn't say you weren't quick. You're quicker than all these other guys. Not me.
I feel like he's implying something here.
Well, that's why we're fire. You know, in ice. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I want to address the elephant in the room here, is that in Northeast Wrestling, there are tag team championships. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
I will say this. Enzo and Cass haven't had a tag team match since 2017.
That's right.
And I don't remember exactly when or who those opponents were. It's probably somewhere in Germany or something like that. I think the Hardy Boys were there, though. New Day, maybe. I don't know. There was like 12 people on the apron. Yeah, Gallows there. Whatever. We didn't win that day. But I can tell you right now, whoever gets in the ring with us next, you're screwed.
He bleeped that out. Did you hear? He said
You heard me?
You're screwed.
Bleep that out
was good,
myself.
man.
You
Good
can't
job.
teach that, dude. That's proper instincts. That's working for a PG product for 6 years, and Noah Lombardi promotes a PG product as well.
PG.
There's a line out the door for Enzo and Big CazXL. I want to thank you so much for being here for Northeast Wrestling. And
Now listen, we're not here for Northeast Wrestling. We're here for the fans of Northeast Wrestling, okay? Those are the best fans I've encountered in the Northeast in my journeys over the past year or two.
thank you.
Well, thank you, bro. Anything else? Like a final thought or maybe a final question?
What do you need?
I mean, I would have liked some of that cheese.
No, all you need.
All you need is love. Ba ba da da da.
All you need is love.
Ba ba da da da.
All you need is love.
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 Love is all you need.
You were supposed to finish that.
Son of a. With us today, Kaz, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How you doing?
Oh, I see what you did there. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was hitting you with the question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about it right off the bat. We talked Northeast Wrestling. Now, this isn't the first event that you've done for Northeast Wrestling. So what are you expecting tomorrow night? It looks like you're going to be taking on Wrecking Ball Legursky. And what do you think about Northeast Wrestling in general? How have you been treated over there?
I mean, I've been treated amazingly since I've been there. Michael Lombardi runs the show. He, always makes me feel comfortable. He's put me in some really good matches, some challenging matches. I was so far going against Thrill Ride, who, with his little fucking manager right there, almost beat me twice. And, but tomorrow night, I'm going against Wrecking Ball, so I'm looking forward to the challenge. I've chatted with him. I've looked him eye to eye, but I don't really know what this guy's about. So I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, let's take it back a little bit. You've been in wrestling for quite a while now, but I feel like that I don't know that much about how you got your start. We can look at Wikipedia and we can see these things, but can you tell everybody who's listening just a little bit about how you got into the professional wrestling business and maybe why you stuck with it so long?
Okay, so I always wanted to be a professional wrestler. And while I was in college, I was studying for the MCAT, and I was pre-med. And I was like, well, this isn't my passion. Like, while I was studying for the MCAT, I was like, I'm going to ace this test. I'm going to do really well. But at the same time, I can't do this for 8 more years because I'm not that passionate. So I studied for the MCAT, took it, did well, and could have gotten into med school. But once I graduated, I said, nah, I think I'm going to pursue professional wrestling because that's my passion. So I wasn't passionate about medicine, so I just went in the direction of professional wrestling.
All right. Now, you were obviously a fan of professional wrestling before getting into there. Like, what time frame were you the most passionate about as far as professional wrestling is concerned? Like, I know you grew up in New York, so there's obviously a lot going on on the East Coast as far as professional wrestling. Who were some of your favorites growing up, and who really was that person that maybe got you into the business?
I mean, Hogan, and then Bret Hart, and then the guy that got me into the business was Austin. I was at Survivor Series 96 at the Garden, and I was like a big Bret Hart fan, but like all these influential teenagers around me were Austin fans. I was like, oh man, they're the cool kids. I was like, I'm going to cheer for Austin. And then from that moment on, I was a big Austin fan, and he hooked me into professional wrestling, like to try and like get into the business was Austin.
Now, I'm always interested in that, like being a big Austin fan. Clearly, you were at the big shows. You were at WrestleMania. You were at Survivor Series, and times when potentially Austin would have been around. Have you ever got to talk to Austin about the fact that you were a fan of his growing up?
Huge. I believe it was the weekend. It was the weekend that me and Enzo were going to debut on Raw. So it was in Dallas, and Austin had me and Enzo on his podcast. And we chatted for a while for the podcast. And then after we went off the air and he stopped recording, me, Enzo, and him chatted for hours on end in his hotel room, like just bullshitting. It was like a dream come true, just like picking his brain, asking him all these questions. And it was just like me, Enzo, and him, like nobody else could hear. It wasn't on air. It was amazing.
That's awesome. Now it feels like to me sometimes that being a fan can either help you or hurt you. In your experience, have you ever felt that like being a fan of professional wrestling and then going into the professional wrestling business, was that ever looked down upon by anybody?
Man, that's a good question. I don't think so. I think that being a fan just makes people know that you're passionate about what you do for a living. I've never once been looked down upon for my passion in being a fan for wrestling, but I mean, I could see where that might come from, but that definitely didn't happen to me.
Okay, awesome. Now, being from New York, obviously there are a lot of things that go along with that. I got to ask a couple of quick questions. Are you a Yankee or a Met fan?
Yankees.
Okay, all right. And what about like being around so much in New York? Like it's constantly going. You know, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Did you ever feel like when you decided to become a professional wrestler that it was easier for you to do it because you were already here on the Northeast, or do you think it was more difficult because there was already so much of it going on?
I don't think that wherever I ended up wouldn't have mattered. I mean, I'm 6'10", good looking dude, like educated, can talk, like no matter where I ended up, I would be fine. So I don't know if it helped me or was a detriment to me, but I never looked at that. I just know what I'm capable of, what I possess, and what kind of offer I could give to wrestling. So I don't think it was ever a detriment or helping me in that direction. I just think, I was just destined to do something wrestling wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you just mentioned it. You're 6'10". You're a big guy. In the world of professional wrestling, there are a lot of those. There have been, the Giants, the Undertakers, the Psycho Sids, all these big men. Whenever you got into the business, have you ever felt like there was any? I mean, maybe you put it on yourself or just around, but did you feel any pressure or anything about having to live up to some of those other big men?
No, because I look at WWE and I think, when has Vince McMahon ever put a cap on the number of talented big guys he could have? Never. So I never felt like I was in competition with anybody. I always thought that I could compliment them. Like, Vince isn't going to sit there and say, oh man, we have we have 4 7-footers. No, we need to cut that down. No, he's gonna involve every one of them. So I never felt competition or anything like that.
Awesome. Now, you are still going strong. You're a big part of the wrestling world today. You're not necessarily with WWE or any of the, the new AEW yet or anything like that, but you are making your rounds all around the world, being a professional wrestler. How is that different to you nowadays, being able to do this kind of on your own terms versus when you were locked down like full-time with a big company?
I mean, I could do what I want. Like, if I want to go out there and, try something out, I don't have to clear with anybody. I just go out there and do it. And if it sucks, okay, it sucks. Then I won't do it again. But if I try something out and people react to it, then it's like, okay, I'll try that out tomorrow again. So I don't really have to clear anything with anybody. It's kind of just like you're on the independence, go out there, you win in this amount of time or he wins in that amount of time. And you could do whatever the fuck you want. So I kind of just do what I want and see what works. That's
awesome. Now, as a full-time wrestler, being, like we just mentioned, in the WWE and then now being on the independents, there was some rumors or whatever that were swirling around about how WWE now is offering maybe vacations to some people. And with AEW, they've talked about possibly offering health insurance and things like that. As somebody who did that grind where you were 300 nights in a year, if not more, what do you think some of the things that upper management should look at to trying to help these people that are doing that grueling schedule, day in and day out, night in, night out? What are some of the things you think would be best to kind of help out the talent?
To just give a fuck. Don't just look at them like talent and don't look at them like, pieces on a chessboard. Look at them like human beings. Like, okay, this guy's burnt out. Give him 2 weeks off. This guy's burnt out. Give him 4 weeks off. Like, that's it. It's not very hard. Just look at these people like human beings and not just like, pieces of, clay that you're molding into, your ultimate, game. Like, just look at them like humans. Okay, this person's burnt out mentally, physically, everything. Give them a week off. Like, it's not that hard. So that's all I could, ask of them from my experience.
Absolutely. Now, you touched on this a little bit, and I'm gonna say it was a brave thing. It was incredible to see. Like, a lot of people watch you on television or other wrestlers, and they just think that they're these people that don't have any problems. You're making big money, you're traveling the world and all that. And you brought it up. You said that, anxiety and depression, those things do happen. You've sort of, after some of the videos that you did with DDP and all of those things came out, you've become this figure of kind of talking about anxiety and depression in professional wrestling. What's your experience been? Has it been a positive outpouring for people coming and saying, like, you know what, hey, that happened to me too. Like, I'm glad that you said that.
It's definitely been positive. So, I've gotten a lot of texts since then from coworkers or former coworkers, like saying, thank you for speaking up. But I really find the most satisfaction in when I look at Instagram and I see like all my messages. And I'm interacting with people on a daily basis who are telling me, I appreciate you saying that. Like, I'm going through this or I'm going through that. And like, you're helping me. And I'll talk to these people. Like, literally, I'm talking to them one-on-one. Like, I'm not a psychiatrist. I have no MD. Like, I don't have any sort of, credentials when it comes to that. But if they want to talk to me, I'm going to talk to them. So like, when I get messages on Instagram and people saying, hey, I watched this, what should I do? And I give them my honest opinion as someone who's been through it, because I feel like a lot of times in the mental health field, you talk to a lot of people who don't know what it's like because they've never been through it. They studied it. They really, really, have looked through everything, but they've never been through it. So I try to be a voice for these people that have, a guy that's been through it. So I try to help them through that.
Well, it definitely shows, and there are lots of people out there. We mentioned that had reached out to you, and we saw that you went down and spoke with DDP. How important and how helpful was that to go down and speak with DDP and try to talk to him about some of this stuff?
I mean, he's been through it, man. He has dealt with a lot of guys that have had problems, whether it's anxiety, depression, other people with substance abuse, or he's been through it. He knows. So when you talk to him, it's not like a guy that is discovering this for the first time. He gets it. Like, he looks you in the eye and he gets what you're going through. Okay. So, just hanging out with him and his whole family, like in that house, you have Brenda, you have Lexi, like everybody in that house that makes you feel like you're part of the family. It's like it's a really good atmosphere because you get there and you feel like you're like a brother or, you're someone in the family. So I appreciate him taking me in and everything that we've experienced together because he's been through it. He sees it all. He's known it all. He's seen everything.
We are so happy that, he kind of started this, and obviously we've seen him work wonders with all kinds of people, and it's just exciting to kind of see that in the world of wrestling, it probably back in the day that it may not have been that way, and people were kind of only looking out for themselves. So it's nice to see that other people are kind of lending out, and that's what we saw with you too. Like you just said, you're answering these people, you're talking to people. That's something that maybe people don't necessarily realize is happening out there. So we're happy that that's going on. But you've had a lot of awesome moments in your career so far, but obviously we know a lot still yet to come. But if you could kind of put a bow on probably right now, like what you think of as your proudest career moment so far, what would it be?
Wow. Proudest career moment. Wow. That is a good question. I'd probably say the Garden in April. Like, I had been dead and buried for 3 months. No one had seen for me. Thought I was dead. Didn't care what I looked like. I came back at Madison Square Garden in April with Enzo and was in the best shape of my life. And I kind of, when I gave the middle finger to everybody in the crowd, I gave the middle finger to everybody at home. Like, yeah, you thought I was dead. You banked on me being dead, but it's time for me to come back now. So that's probably the proudest moment, was me giving the middle finger to everybody at home.
Awesome. I have to say, I'm pretty active. I listen to a lot of things, and I was surprised about something you said, and it didn't even have to do with wrestling, but it had to do with my favorite television show, The Office. And I hear that you're a pretty big fan of The Office as well.
Huge.
Okay, so I want to know your theory as to why you've made Pam Beasley the biggest heel on The Office.
Dude, 'cause she sucks, man. Okay, let me walk you through this. She's engaged to Roy. She's flirting with Jim on a daily basis. Kisses Jim. Makes Roy super jealous. She goes to art school, right? She goes to art school, and Jim is just like all on board. Okay, yeah, go pursue your dream. And then when Jim wants to go, pursue his dream when it comes to like some sort of like sports agency or something like that, she's hesitant. Fuck you. What's wrong with her? Like, he supported you in all your ups and all your downs. You need to fucking help him. I can't stand Pam. Hate her.
Listen, I am more of a Filippelli man myself, so it was refreshing to hear.
Oh, I love. Karen is the best.
That's incredible. I'm so happy to hear that. So
Yeah.
we're winding down. Like I said, you're a busy man. I'm so happy that we got this chance to talk a little bit. But I want to, like, with these interviews, it's important for me to kind of show that you are human as well. You know, like a lot of people, especially with the invention of social media, it's really easy for people to just say things and there be no repercussions. But what's something about you that you would, you know, either want people to know that they may not know, or something that people would be surprised to learn about you? Like, what's that thing that if, you know, you could tell people, hey, I wish you all knew this, what would it be?
Holy shit, that's a really good question. I don't know. I just think people need to just sit down with me and get to know me, and they'd be like, yeah, this guy's a good dude. Like, I don't have anything specific to put out there. I'm sure, like, in 30 minutes, I'm like, fuck, I should have told them this. But right now, I can't think of anything. Just sit down. Like, you know, 3 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, just sit down and have a beer with me. But right now, just sit down and fucking have a Diet Coke with me and just let's chat, because I'm a regular motherfucking dude.
That's awesome. And when you aren't wrestling, which obviously right now you've got a pretty busy schedule, but when you aren't wrestling, what is something that we would find you doing?
Fantasy football or playing on my electric drum set.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
We cannot thank you enough for letting us get a little bit of glimpse of CazXL. We are super excited to see you tomorrow night in Waterbury, Connecticut, where you take on Wrecking Ball Legursky. For any fans that are going to be listening to this and hearing this between now and then, what's something, you're going to be there, you're going to be signing autographs, you're going to be taking photos with the fans. Is there anything, you mentioned Diet Coke, what's some things that fans could, if they want to bring you something, what's the thing that you like the most?
Well, I'll tell you this right off the bat. When you come to see me and Enzo, you're getting a whole experience. Me and Enzo aren't just some dudes that sit down and just say hey and just sign autographs. We're going to make you feel welcome. We're going to make you feel like you're part of our family. We're going to bring you in. Like, that's just what we do. Like, we want the more people in our family, the better. So we just keep, bringing people in. Like, you come to see us, we're going to fucking put you on board. We're going to take pictures. We're going to chat about whatever you want to chat about. Anything. It could be anything. We're going to try our best to help you. And, come get an 8x10, come get a picture of me and Enzo. But I think the most important thing is the experience. Just come sit down with us and chat, because we're open to chat about anything.
Awesome. Well, we, again, can't thank you enough. We're super excited to see you back out there. And I've seen you in action since you've been back, and let me tell you, it's incredible to see the transformation you've made. And I'm looking forward to seeing where you go in the future. And just thanks so much.
I appreciate that. I'm a fucking machine right now.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. There is, if anybody sees it, it's probably on your Instagram, but it's floating around there. But there's a picture of you just jacked, and it's pretty incredible to see. So good luck with everything.
I appreciate that.
And thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.
Jonathan Benjamin, JB.
It's been a while to get back to where we're at right now, but this has been a fun night.
Yeah, man. So we're just coming out of Waterbury, Northeast Wrestling Show. Awesome as always. We got to talk to a lot of names today.
Tonight was How You Doin, and Enzo and CazXL. The Lucha Brothers were there. Darby Allin, Joey Janela, a lot of Northeast Wrestling mainstays. We had the Trust Fund. We talked to King Brian Anthony. You name it. We got some time in with him.
Yeah, man, it's fun. It's always fun going to these shows. Even though it's family-oriented, it's still a great show to go to. I mean, they're not doing anything crazy where they're, like, stapling cigarettes to your head. But it's still great wrestling, great shows, great atmosphere. So it's great, though, because, I mean, this is... I haven't seen it in a while. I think the last show we came here, Sammy Callahan took my phone over doing a YouTube Live with Ricochet on it. So that's always fun. You never know what's going to happen. So I haven't seen you in a while, so I mean, let's catch up on some wrestling, Jonathan, because what have you been liking? What have you, anything? What's on the top of JB's interests right now for just anything in pro wrestling?
You know, I'm really excited. I know that WWE gets kind of a bad rep, like, right now, just because of, like, it's more kid-friendly, it's more kid-oriented or whatever, and, like, you've got AEW, which is going to be interesting to see nonetheless, but ultimately with WWE, we heard the news not too long ago that Heyman and Bischoff are kind of helping to write, you know, Raw and SmackDown, which I think that a lot of people expected, like, right out of the gate, like the ECW and WCW, but I think it's the long game, I really do, and I'm excited to kind of see what happens with this. I've heard, you know, we all read the dirt sheets or whatever, that sooner rather than later they're going to do kind of like a draft again, but I feel like this one's going to stick. It's going to be more permanent, and I hope that they actually get some, like, separation for the shows.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what, I mean, well, they had the little draft a little while ago, and then they had, within, like, weeks, there was a wild card rule, and now it's just like, I think they were worried about ratings and just separating people from shows at first. But now with the whole NXT we've been talking about is going live next week on the USA Network. 2 weeks, it's just going to be 1 hour. Then after that, when AEW starts too, it's going to be a full 2 hours on USA. But I always ask this question. I've talked to Kofi, Natalia, who's going to be a guest on the show. You know, now with NXT being on USA, that to me is mainstream media. They're not going to be on the network anymore. So when you do that, to me, that's a third brand. Like, there's none of the fans, none of the young fans are going to differentiate, you know, SmackDown, Raw, and NXT as, or, you know, like the main brands are, this is just developmental. They don't. That's like, you know, that's done with, if you will, right? I mean, you can't really say it's developmental, right, when you're putting it on a main network with your other main shows.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. The thing that I hope, though, is if you think back to SmackDown, like circa SmackDown and Raw, like 05, 06, someone will probably correct me on the dates, but like back when there was a complete brand split, that felt different to me. I could watch a Raw pay-per-view and only see Raw people, and I could watch a SmackDown pay-per-view, and then, like, you would get, like, WrestleMania, sometimes you would get these matches where we could build them up as, like, dream matches, like whenever, you know, someone would come over from Raw and start messing with someone with SmackDown or whatever, and that gives an opportunity to these NXT people too. NXT obviously has grown very well in popularity over the years, and to kind of use a something that local people may be familiar with is, like, with Northeast Wrestling, Bethany is kind of their NXT, you know, and then they take the show on the road and they go to these big places. But some of the people that have huge followings in Bethany get over in other places because of, like, Bethany, and that's what's going on with NXT right now is, you know, they tape down at Full Sail, and there's a niche audience built in with the WWE Network. But now that they're moving to USA, I think it's a lot more eyes, a lot more people that will probably start to prop this brand up, and you're gonna have probably a huge increase in, like, merchandising for some of these people, you know, and it's an exciting time for wrestling.
Yeah, man. You know, that's what you brought up a good point too, because NXT still will be exclusively at Full Sail, so you're not going to see those big crowds. And, you know, you talk about brand separation. Why do you think they jumped the gun to where they had the draft? You're going to Raw, you're going to SmackDown, and then, like, weeks later, all of a sudden, they were unsure about that. Why do you think they, like, jumped the gun and, like, came back already and, like, well, there's a wild card rule now, and anybody, 4 guys can show up on each show? Well, what do you think happened? That is it ratings maybe, or
it could be rating? I mean, like, honestly, like, if you were reading the dirt sheets at that time, or if you were watching wrestling, you kind of saw that the writing was on the wall. There was a lot of stuff going on. Vince restarted the XFL. You know, Triple H was running NXT, but then they still have, you know, Raw and SmackDown to deal with. So I think that maybe the ink hadn't dried on the contracts yet, as far as with Heyman and Bischoff and all that stuff, and they didn't want to get it out, and even, like, the new Fox, like the new deal with Fox and stuff. So I think it was probably just a circumstance of like bad timing. They're like, hey, we need to do something, so we're gonna give it a shot in the arm. We're gonna bring this all to the forefront. But then after a couple weeks, they're like, oh crap, like we just did this. We should have waited or whatever.
Yeah, and like WWE Universe has I like this word, plethora. I only get to use it every so often. So of talent, and it's amazing that, like, remember when they had the draft, the Viking Warriors, Lacey Evans, EC3, fucking sitting in cage, like, the guy was huge in Impact. You brought him to NXT, and you wanted to move him up so fast, you didn't do anything with him. Like, it really needs to be a brand separation. Like, this guy is only on Raw. This guy is only on SmackDown or in NXT. Like, they really need to do that, especially for the talent, or else why are you going to stay with WWE? Like, this guy could be number one in any other company that he works for, and you guys aren't even touching him for whatever reason, that somebody doesn't like his gear, his hair, I don't know. It blows my mind how you brought him in, you rushed him up, and now you're not even doing anything with him. I'm like, so when you say brand separation, I'm talking like, get Roman off of every show, keep the guys to their show. Like, I don't need to see a SmackDown Women's SmackDown Women's Championship match on Raw. Yeah, it's called the SmackDown Women's Championship. Yeah, put it on SmackDown. It's silly things like that to where stick to your own show, or unless the only thing I think acceptable is if they get rid of that Raw and SmackDown Women's and just make one Women's Champion to where she's on Raw for a little bit, works a program. Then, goes to SmackDown. Somebody wins it on, or something to that effect. But it's got to be separated. There's
so much talent on and there's never been more wrestlers than there are now. Like,
it's a lucrative job. I mean, you get into it. It's not just like only for the select few. Now you got everybody who's in whatever kind of shape being a wrestler. Every athletic proportion, if you will.
But if you think about it, like right now, I'm not saying that WWE is like concerned about AEW, because truthfully, I don't think they are yet. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't be or whatever, but like, you've got AEW and WWE. We've heard, and a lot of this is speculation, but WWE is signing guys and gals to contracts because they don't want them to go to AEW. But ultimately, people that we haven't seen from for a while have gotten extensions on contracts or whatever. But right now, there's WWE, the huge multimedia global juggernaut. You've got AEW, which is coming in hot. You've got Impact, which we joked about this earlier, but like, if there's ever an apocalypse, the three things that are going to still be around are TNA, cockroaches, and Twinkies, and Ring of Honor. And in the United States, like right now, just think about how much talent are on all those shows. And whenever you have just Raw and anybody can come on there, then ultimately you've got people that aren't going to make the cut. So hopefully, if there's a brand separation, a strict brand separation, that some of these people will get to rise to the top.
No, for sure. And I'm kind of, everybody wants to keep an eye on like who's going to have the better show. Over the next year or so, depending on whoever's doing what, I'm gonna kind of be interested in seeing the landscape of the indies, and then Ring of Honor, and then TNA, and then like, I'm kind of curious of who's going to suck up what talent, who's going to be gutted of talent, because I mean, we just saw Matt Taven tonight, but I understand his Ring of Honor contract that is ending in the end of September, and he's the champ. I'm sure he'll renew, but you never know. And I know Marty Scurll's contract ends in November. Goodbye Villain Enterprises? I don't know. You don't know. Like, is it obvious that he's going to go with his friends again, unless they throw a lot of money at him at Ring of Honor or something? But I mean, there's a lot of writings on the wall for some people in their contracts, even WWE talent, where they're not getting used. They see AEW in the horizon, or just anything. They could be a bigger star anywhere else if they're they're not being used. So I'm just curious of how it's going to work, to where, let's say AEW is a lot bigger than what we think it could be, and then all of a sudden they need more talent. Who do they gut? Who are they going after? There's a lot of Ring of Honor talent have contracts coming up where they don't sign, and now Ring of Honor is kind of left deflated, or Impact, can they just, who's going to steal who from what company? and like who's going to hurt the most, which company is going to kind of like could fall apart from this whole thing, or even the indies. I mean, a lot of these indie talents that we know and seen, they're going to need just guys to fill their rosters, kind of a thing, if you will. And who's going to get gutted? I think at the end of the day,
that could be like back in the day with the Monday Night Wars. Everybody talked about like the casualties and stuff like that, and ECW was like one of the first casualties because both sides were picking.
I remember that dropping like flies, man. I would see like Mikey Whipwreck on WCW. I'm like, really? And then it was like that. Yeah, it was like anybody was going anywhere.
So the indies may be the first casualty of this new kind of gobbling up for talent. Like I think that people will end up getting like released and stuff like that. Like that's kind of just a foregone conclusion. Yeah. However, with like us being in the Northeast, it probably won't affect us much just because we are in the Northeast, that lots of people come out. So, but I could see like some of these other smaller promotions in the Midwest or the South or even out West, like not doing as well from this, just because it's going to take a toll. People are looking right now for the next big star.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see like at the end of the day, like what happens, who remains supreme, if you will. And I understand where you can watch everything. You don't have to pick and choose in the day of DVRs and YouTube and whatever. You can watch everything. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of wrestling on, and there ever was, and it's like people are going to have to pick and choose. And if your product isn't, up to par, I'm going to be watching the other guy or whoever's going to keep my interest in whatever they do. And that's, I think, kind of the big, drastic of how AEW is, because I mean they're using a lot more blood than WWE would. They're cursing, they're putting, they're like regular old school promos, and that's like, it's like old school wrestling. Like that's what people want to see. They're kind of sick of you can't say shit or you can just say crap, or how WWE tones down their stuff, but. Do you think WWE will have to step it up now a little bit, depending on, I guess, I guess it's nice that there's a contrast. Like I could watch AEW for that.
I don't think that WWE will ever do that, because WWE now is a national traded company, a publicly traded company. Like they have a kids base, just like so when we were kids, it was geared towards kids. Yeah. When we became it was a perfect storm. When we became teens, then it was a more teen product. Yeah. And then now that maybe we have kids or you have kids, and like true. It's now back to that.
It's like they know us. It's like they're listening to us.
I think so. But that's not to say that WWE won't I forget what pay-per-view it was, but there was a big deal made about how like the camera person kind of zoomed in to Lacey Evans' butt, whatever. Like that was something that they made a conscious, and with Paul Heyman running Raw, and I can't imagine there's not going to be some of more.
Because you got parents watching too. You got to keep their attention, and it's like little kids won't, make it sexual like that. They just see someone's butt, but it's like when you see it, what happens. Like they throw like adult jokes in like kid movies and stuff. It's kind of like that kind of aspect. But
I wonder if we're looking at this, 5 years down the road or whatever. The thing that I will be interested in seeing is if AEW can actually create stars. Yeah. Like right now they have Cody, the Bucks, Kenny Omega, the Lucha Brothers, Joey Janela, they've got Chris Jericho, they've got all of these people, but will they be able to make stars? The people that they're bringing in, Private Party, like some of these people are already somewhat established. The general public may not know them yet, but like WWE constantly, whether, they get a lot of crap sometimes when people, come in through the Performance Center and maybe they're a football player, maybe they're a dancer, maybe they were America's Ninja Warrior or whatever, but ultimately the right people get a hold of them, they become stars.
And I think that's another contrast with AEW. There's blood, there's cursing, but what they're doing is kind of like taking the indie stars and putting them on their show. They're not really just taking a nobody, giving them a gimmick. So I wonder if they want to keep that route, but I wonder if it'll bite them in the butt in the long run, if you will, to where let's say Darby Allin's done in a few years and wants to go to WWE as Darby Allin. You know, it's like, you know, it keeps his name, and it's a different time, different era, I guess, right now. But I don't know what kind of contracts they sign with their names or what they can or can't do after the fact. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see if they do actually, you know, like bring somebody up that we don't know and just make it better.
Yeah, I think right now, and that's something that's gonna really pique my interest too, is just to see, because I feel like right now, and I don't know everybody who's in AEW, so again, someone may correct me about this or whatever, but I just feel like their roster is thin right now. Like, how many times are you going to be able to see the Young Bucks face somebody other than the Lucha Brothers, or you know, like, or how many times are we going to see like Moxley versus Omega, or you know, Jericho versus...
Yeah, and it's like in our minds we want it to be as big as the WWE, but in reality it's going to be a lot smaller, like, than what it is, and until they have more money, I guess, to hire more people. It's that's, I think, one of the biggest things happening, because even for me, to where I bought the first All In, you know, whatever, I was like, I want to see it. I want to witness it. I want to see what they're doing. So we got it. I paid it. Then the next one was free, we mentioned. And then this last one, I was like, I'm just going to find the link online. Like, I talked about it with Angry Kuter, Minority Mike. I was saying, you know, $50 may not mean a lot to anybody, but I got 2 kids. I got to pay for other things. $50 a month is a lot of money out of someone's pocket. And if I get paid $9.99 or $50, I'm going to pay $9.99. And, you know, you get more for your buck. But I understand you can have parties, everybody chipping $10 or whatever. But still, you know what I mean? Like, it's... I think the biggest thing they need to do right now is come up with like an app or their own little network to pay for $9.99, or stick with Bleacher Report and Fight. But we talked to Flip Gordon about this. I'm kind of curious what you think. You know, we talked to him about, you know, companies like Ring of Honor working with New Japan and CMLL and all that stuff. Do you think, I know AEW has partnerships with that one company in China or Japan or whatever. I forget the name. I'm just unfamiliar with it. But you know, I think for a lot of these indie places, especially like Impact and Ring of Honor, I feel like they need to kind of almost partner up with a lot of these mainstay indies, like a Northeast Wrestling or something, to where, hey, we can have like a Impact versus Northeast Wrestling, or Impact versus insert your local, you know, indie promotion kind of a thing, to where I wonder if they'll have to do that, kind of use it as like a lifeline, if you will, to keep them going. Or, you know, it's going to be interesting though. It's like you can't predict the future, and there's so many variables. Like, this has to happen for order this to happen, and yada yada yada. But maybe a year from now, I'll have a different tune and see what's going on.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where we talk about WWE, and WWE, you know, I stepped away from wrestling for a while, and I watch as much as I can, and all of that. One of the things about WWE and professional wrestling in general is, till the day I die, it's hardwired into my DNA. Like, there's nothing, like, I will still defend it. I will go to shows. Like, even if I'm not completely watching, I still am involved in it, because it's something that's important to me, and it's always been important to me. But I saw something the other day about how, you know, you don't have to tear one of them down, because ultimately more wrestling is what everybody's always clamoring about anyway. Right. So I want to make it clear that I'm not rooting against AEW, and I'm not like just blatantly loyal to the WWE, but I will go, and you mentioned this earlier, I'll go with what piques my interest the most. So like one night, and that's great. It's all wrestling. If I see something in Ring of Honor that I want to watch, I'm going to watch it. If I see something on AEW, then I'm definitely going to spend my money. And that's really the best system out there, because right now, if you want an alternative, you can have an alternative.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of alternatives out there too, and you know, it's funny, like almost like the presidential race, to where when Trump was elected, his whole campaign was, you know, saying things that no politician would ever say, cursing, just saying stupid shit, right? And that's what got him elected, just being that total alternative, if you will, to the same old kind of a thing. And now if you think about it, I mean, you're never really going to compete with WWE unless you get a lot of money and a lot of years, like a lot of mileage into what you're doing. TNA couldn't do it. I mean, at one point you think they could because they had a lot of old WWE superstars. But it's to have that alternative. What I'm getting to is like, what will Ring of Honor do to like step it up to be different now? Because I mean, they had a great thing going, but like, it's amazing how these few guys talk to somebody who had the money, and I turn on AEW. To me, like, it already looks like it's WCW in a way. The way it's lit, the way it looks, like it's just that it doesn't look like WWE alternative kind of thing. So I mean, kudos to them, but what are these companies going to do that's going to like stand out to where like Ring of Honor or Impact, are they going to have like topless wrestling, or like, well, how insane is it going to get to just be different? And like I said, all AEW has to do right now is not do what WWE is doing, curse, more blood, just do the opposites of what they're not doing, and right there and then you're that alternative that's like everything that WWE doesn't do, you're doing. So.
Well, and if you are a like professional wrestling historian or somebody who's a fan of professional wrestling for longer than a couple of years, you probably know that this is very eerily similar to what like Eric Bischoff was saying whenever Ted Turner said, we want you to turn a profit for for WCW. It had never been done before. And Eric Bischoff gets the he becomes the president of WCW, and Ted Turner says, what's it going to take for you to beat WWF at the time? And he said, well, they tape, so we're going to go live. Like, they're 1 hour, we're going to be 2 hours. Like, they don't feature Lucha Libre and smaller guys, then that's exactly what we're going to do. They're going for a kid audience, we're going to, and I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's that alternative. With that being said, listen, right now, a lot of the people that, there's no denying that the Bucks and Cody and all those people put in their time. Omega, I mean, right now, as far as I'm concerned, Omega is probably, he's in the conversation for me at least, as one of the top 3 wrestlers in the world right now. And but I'm super excited to see how WWE kind of reacts to this stuff, and they may not do it in such a blatant way. Like, we've been seeing a lot of jabs from AEW directed towards WWE. Yeah. We heard a little bit of one when, Corey Graves said something about like, oh, he just won a championship, maybe he'll go to a chain steakhouse or whatever, like taking a little shot at Jericho. But I mean, this is all fun and games right now. Like, this is what I mean, I just don't want it to get too petty. I don't need to hear, if I'm watching WWE, I don't need to hear all about AEW. And if I'm watching AEW, I don't need it. Like, I get it. Like,
I'm surprised, like, you bring that up though, I'm surprised they took those really early steps at jabbing WWE with the whole throne and Cody, smashed it. I'm like, dude, it's your like first show or second, like, relax. You got, like, don't get ahead of yourself, because now what if happens, it falls through in 2 months, you look like an idiot.
But they were all in. I mean, pun intended. Like, they went balls to the wall for that, and I think that's what it was all about. And the Shakira's hips don't lie, and the fans don't lie, and they sold out these things over and over again. And again, we go to a lot of shows. We see these people tonight at Northeast Wrestling. It's very family friendly. Like, that's the main demo. But on top of that, there are hardcore wrestling fans there. They're there to see, and there are casual wrestling fans there. And so it's such a, I'm sure that there's been some sort of study, and it's just fascinating to me that the psychology of and the demographics of like who comes to these shows and like why they go and like whatever. But we're not just talking about the southern hillbilly backwood wrestling fan anymore. We're talking about smart, sophisticated wrestling fans. We're talking about celebrity wrestling fans, and they're not afraid anymore. They're not in the closet, if you will. They're out, and they're talking about how much they enjoy professional wrestling. Macaulay Culkin is a celebrity fan, like Seth Green. Like, these are people that have a big name in entertainment, and they are fans, and that's really what's impressive, and I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you have because you work for Fox, but did you see the commercial for the new SmackDown where everyone's a superstar? Like that was such a good commercial, and like so incredible to kind of say to people like, hey, it's okay to be a fan. Like there are doctors that are fans and waiters who are fans and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, just enjoy what you watch, and I mean, focus on that. And if you want to give, and this is across the board, if you like an indie person, like when you go to a show, give them $10 to buy a t-shirt or get an autograph or whatever, because that's going to help them. If you like WWE, then pay for that network subscription or buy yourself a t-shirt or a replica belt. If you like AEW, that's awesome, then pay the $50. But whatever you like, just support it, because you actually get to see your investment, if you will, and it makes a difference. Like I used to joke, I'd drive by WWE headquarters every now and then, and I would just say like, here's my check for the week, Vince. Like because I used to, it was crazy. Like my name is Jonathan Benjamin, and I had a problem, and that's but it's important that you spend your time, your energy, your effort into something that you like, and don't worry so much about what you don't, and because it's all going to flesh itself out regardless.
Yeah, I was watching CM Punk's StarCast interview, and he's like, they try to pin it on you. They try to like make you choose, like there's only one choice, but you could watch everything. Like you can watch it all. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to just watch NXT. You don't have to just watch AEW. You can watch it all. Don't let them ever tell you that, you can only choose between whatever. Like, in this day and age, watch anything you want. Record it. YouTube it. Whatever you're doing to watch it. I mean, it's just watch everything. To where, for me, I don't have time anymore to watch everything from 3 hours to 3 hours to 2 hours. I'm like, you gotta pick and choose your poison, I guess. But, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's good to be a wrestling fan in 2019. It's going to be very interesting over the next few weeks. Like I said, I love talking about this because it's really the quiet before the storm, because this show could hit. It could be, like what if, I know they're showing on Wednesdays. Let's just say they beat Raw's ratings. Whatever, you know what I mean? Like, let's just say they come on their first show, their first few shows, all their ratings are just killing any other wrestling show. That's a wake-up call, Vince. Like, obviously they're doing something that you're not, or whatever, you know what I mean? So does that all of a sudden start to change WWE? Or on the other hand, they can come on there and it's a big flop, and WWE will continue doing what they do or whatnot, to where they don't have to compete. But I'll tell you, I love the days of competition, because I always joke of like the Duke the Dumpster or Doink the Clown era, because there was no competition, and Vince was just like, let's make a clown. Let's make a garbage man. Let's, and it was just silly stuff, right? And then the Attitude Era came along. They had to compete against a company that was doing a lot better than they were doing, and the characters weren't hokey, and, it's good for everybody at the end of the day. Like, you get to, well, these guys are doing this. What could we do to outdo them in a way? And it's just going to be fun as a wrestling fan at the end of the day in the next few months, just to see what happens. You know what I mean? So.
And what's, like, going to be very cool for me and for anybody who's a fan is to, right now we're talking about this stuff, and, in 1 year it's going to be different, in 3 years it's going to be different, in 5 years it's going to be different. And for most of us who used to watch wrestling on videotape, if you're...
Videotape? What is that?
Yeah, exactly. If you're a kid...
Do I need a VCR to watch videotape?
Exactly. And then it went to DVD, and then now... And then Blu-ray, and then now it's like this... you can gobble up all the wrestling you want with, streaming services. And I long for the day where I can open up my computer or whatever, and I can log into the network or whatever I want, and I can say Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston, I want them to fight right now. Fight.
Yeah.
Fight. And then they'll fight. They'll put on a match just for me. Like, that's what, I mean, I am
augmented reality. Or
yeah,
whatever,
I'm super invested in like, just
Man,
so,
I think you just invented
that's trademark.
something.
That's trademark.
That's trademark.
Yes.
Yeah, we are recording. Like, that is, because, like, you think about it. Like, think about the augmented reality, people playing Pokemon Go, And now, you know, like you go to concerts, they have like the holograms or whatever.
Yes.
What you just said, man, like right there, like I want to see Kenny Omega versus Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
1992-ish, like with the ring, the background, like
absolutely.
that'd be awesome. Just it has their movesets, it's a computer, like the computer would figure it out what they would do. That's insane, guys. When we're rich from this idea, because I'm technically is it like 50%? Because I was in the room when it was created.
This was a.
I'm getting rich over his idea.
Yes, no, this was a joint effort. It came out in this conversation, so
I brought it out. That's what I'm saying in court when I'm trying to get my half of my million of.
Absolutely.
Oh man, that is an actually incredible interview from CazXL. Good work to JB. I want to hear more from him. Hopefully we can have him on the show again, man.
Yeah, man, great guy.
But I gotta send you some of this audio that I got here, man. A little tease for a potential upcoming sponsor of the show. So we say,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, man. We just got some boxes in the mail this week, but we don't want to, I guess, spoil it. I mean, maybe you can kind of give them a hint of what how AWP is going to be sponsored by.
Why don't you suck on my balls, Credo? Suck my balls. They're nice and smooth.
Is that a tease for you?
It's a tease. Don't you worry. Wait, hear the audio.
Nice unboxing here, Ma.
What's that?
It's a free box of stuff from manscaped.com. Crop mop. Refreshing ball wipes. Crop cleanser. Hair and body wash. It's for your balls, Ma. It's a t-shirt. Manscaped Refining the Gentleman. What's this? Oh. Wow. This is... Whoa. It's called Refine Ball Cologne, formatted by Whiff. What's so funny? You don't know what it's like having balls. This is nice stuff.
Well, where's mine? You know, we could use it for stuff like that for tits.
Tits?
Tits.
You got hairy tits? Do you know what manscaping is?
No.
That's when you shave your fucking balls with a razor.
Oh,
yeah. You know, the ball wipes are for smelly balls. Your tits smelling or hairy? That's real good. Who do you think you are?
I didn't know that.